Welcome to the first video in a weekly series on the foundations of finance. The bulk of the content of this series will be from an MBA Math Finance Prep course that I taught and recorded several years ago. But that's the good thing about math. The content is evergreen, and so it should be as relevant today as it was then. In this series, you'll learn how to compare various investment opportunities. You'll learn the fundamentals of the time value of money and compound interest. And you'll also learn how to calculate the present value of single, multiple, and perpetual cash flows. I hope this series lays a good foundation for future, more specific financial independence topics that we'll cover on this channel. In this first introductory video, I'm going to lay the foundation for all investment considerations by explaining the two fundamental considerations that must be had for every investment decision. We need a way to decide which opportunities are the best ones. And a few examples will help us illustrate the need for some tools to help us decide. So assuming there is no risk of not getting your money, if I offered you $10 today or $100 today, which would you choose? Okay, this one is easy. If the risk is the same, meaning you have the same certainty of receiving each promised payment and the cash inflows arrive at the same time, you would always choose the higher amount. Now let's look at another slightly more complicated example. Would you rather invest in Coca-Cola stock that is offering a $100,000 payout in 10 years or an internet startup that is promising a $250,000 payout in 5 years? This scenario is not so easy because it introduces two fundamental concepts that must be considered when evaluating all investment opportunities. And the first of these fundamental concepts is risk. Risk, in our context, is answering the fundamental question, how certain are you? How certain are you that you will, number one, receive the promised amount? And number two, how certain are you that you will receive that promised amount at the promised time? When comparing Coca-Cola with an internet startup, which is more risky? Because of Coca-Cola's strong financial standing, long operating history, and solid brand equity, it would be considered less risky than a new internet startup. In other words, the internet startup would be more risky than investing in Coca-Cola stock. This means that most people would be more certain of receiving the payment from Coca-Cola than they would be from the startup venture. The second component we must consider along with risk is time. And time is related to when cash flows will occur. And timing with investments is absolutely critical. The previous example demonstrates that investment choices will often have cash flows that occur at different times. That example saw one example promising a payment in 10 years, while the second option is promising a payment in 5 years. And as we'll see in future videos, if cash flows occur at different points in time, we cannot accurately compare them. So we need a way or some tools that will help us adjust the timing of these cash flows so that we can compare them. So to recap, the two most fundamental components of any investment decision are risk and time. When trying to determine how risky an investment is, we are trying to answer the fundamental question, how certain are we? How certain are we that we'll receive the promised amount at the promised time? The time component of investment decisions involves recognizing when cash flows occur. And if there are any differences in the timing of the cash flows, we need to make the necessary adjustments so that we can accurately compare those investment options. So now that we have covered the basics of how risk and time affect investment decisions, let's take a deeper look at both of those components, starting with risk.